Is racism the biggest threat to black businesses, or are we overlooking the challenges within our own community? This Saturday at 10 a.m. Eastern, business strategists Lanee, Javet, and Terry Simmons examine attacks on black business funding, the disconnect between black businesses and black consumers, and where the greatest opportunities still exist. Watch live on youtube.com/mental dialogue, the mental dialogue perspective, where culture thinks out loud. Good morning to all of the Mental Dialogue watchers, as we do now. 8 years audio only. We're still trying to figure out this video thing. We call it the pop-up Mental Dialogue perspective. I got two returning guests, long-time returning guests to the Mental Dialogue perspective. We pop up not every Saturday like we used to, but every now and then, every now and again, as we still talk about race, sex, and culture and business better than anyone else. So I'm going to start with my queen, who got up bright and early for me. She's all the way out on West Coast time. Dr. Lanee, Javet, thank you, queen, for joining us for the Mental Dialogue perspective. If you will, introduce yourself. Tell them a little bit about your background, as we like to say, on the Mental Dialogue perspective. and then we'll go to our next guest.
I love background. Hi, good morning, everybody. I'm Dr. Lanee Javet. I go by the brand Your Brilliant Strategist. I help Black service-based entrepreneurs who are brilliant to create a business and a brand around it that we can monetize and they can make money off of. I've been doing this for almost like 13 years now. I'm coming up on my 15 years, and I am just a servant of the Black community.
Now, I love it. I tell people you are the best business coach when it comes to executives and ownership. Nobody does it better. I got my man Terry Simmons, who's renowned in his own right. This brother has been dropping gems for us since I met him. I don't even know how long we've known each other now, but he's been rocking with me for a lot of years. And so, brother, if you will, I'm gonna have you introduce yourself and tell these people about, your background, as I say, in this entrepreneurial streets, and what you can do before we get into this conversation about our Black-owned businesses. Go ahead, brother. Tell them who you are.
Appreciate it, brother. Appreciate the forum. Appreciate the opportunity. Looking forward to the discussion. Terry Simmons. I'm the founder and managing director of Orange Strategy. We're based in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, but our clients are clustered across the South, primarily in Louisiana, Texas, and Georgia. We are a branding, digital media, and workforce marketing firm. Our clients run the spectrum, honestly, from micro enterprises all the way to Fortune 100 companies. If I could maybe frame specifically how we work with minority businesses, it's usually go-to-market or scalability strategies. So we help them to reimagine their brands, think through the brand story, think through their unique value proposition, think through the differentiators that make them stand out from, dare I say, the competitors, and put together some systems to help them be able to operate efficiently. With the larger companies that we work with, they tend to be focused in manufacturing, oil and gas, healthcare. Examples would be Dow Chemicals, a client of ours, Nucor Steel is a client of ours, both Fortune 100 companies. And we work with them on workforce marketing. So their projected talent needs in the future, we make sure that they're positioned properly to be able to attract the talent they need.
All right. If you are watching this because we're talking about our black businesses, we have expertise to the highest degree when it comes to this thing. It won't be the things that you hear or see and watch on social media for how to do business in our community. So with that said, if you are a first-time watcher, we react to clips from around the internet. And so I basically wanted to share. I'm going to actually have Dr. Javet respond to one of her own clips that I saw on her show, one of her shows that she's a part of, the Fly Nubian Queens. And so we're going to start with this clip. And she was like, "You want me to react to my own clip?" Yes, I do. But I have some thoughts as well. And so obviously, again, just giving y'all expertise, people will understand, hey, we have people that are responding, not from just saying they're in business, a lot of years, a lot of expertise, and understanding business down to the nuts and bolts of things. And so I'll, as the moderator and philosopher on this show, I'll be offering some of my, I guess, layman philosophies and let these experts kind of say, hey, you're thinking this way, let's straighten it out this way, or here's some other thoughts, or they might validate some of my thoughts about these. But anyway, let's start with this first clip. Very interesting clip. As again, for the title of the show, we just basically said minding our Black-owned businesses. So all of these clips will be related to that, if that makes sense.
It says, as a lawyer who has repped large creators, the disparity in pay gap between Black creators and white creators is astounding. Agencies and brands need to be held accountable. I say agencies because a lot of managers and agencies will lowball to close the deal instead of working hard to articulate the value prop and advocate for their creator. You're offering a Black creator with millions of followers $15K, but a white creator with 300,000 followers $200,000 and a brand trip. So $15,000, y'all, in comparison to $200,000. You know what I mean? That's a lot. That's a large gap.
That is a large gap. So do we think are creators being taught enough about negotiation? I see a lot of times creators or UGCs talk about their first 1 or 2 or 3 brand deals and how badly they got took to the cleaners because they just didn't know. And then as they grow in experience doing brand deals and whatnot, they get better at it and they kind of get closer to what they're supposed to be at. However, I also can see and not understand, but I also can see having somebody represent you and they just trying to get a commission. So they're not working that hard for you. They just try, here's something. But working harder for their white clients, going to the mat because they know what they can get.
So I wanted to give you my perspective on that clip, Dr. Javet, and see, what your perspective is. Hopefully we'll get Terry back in here. He maybe had to drop or may have got knocked off. But when I looked at it, I loved how when you were kind of just highlighting, they were highlighting the obviously the huge difference in what was being offered to the white creator versus the Black creator, 200,000 versus 15,000, which is obviously very significant, right? And so it's basically the lawyer was even highlighting that this happens quite often. The lawyer that helps with these was highlight the y'all were talking about in the clip, how this often is the case. And I like where your mind first went when you said, well, are our creators understanding how to negotiate these deals and these things? And the reason I like where your mind went versus just saying, hey, look at this difference. This is racism. You kind of start thinking about what is the business of this thing, right? Like you just kind of went there. So I kind of appreciated your perspective. Here's what I thought about. And again, now y'all definitely tear this apart if you like. But what I thought about was something that I've been highlighting, and y'all may remember this for years when I've been bringing you guys on the show. I've been highlighting the things that that our ancestors did for us. They allowed us to get into this marketplace in a way that they never could be in the marketplace. I'm talking about the American marketplace of capitalism, right? Like we actually have an opportunity that I think the work that both of y'all do help bring people along and what that looks like what that looks like. So when I'm watching the clip, the perspective I had was, okay, 200,000 versus 15,000. I automatically went, because I'm always stuck talking about our community as a collective. I automatically went to the amount of money that, in a sense, our collective has versus another collective. That's where my mind went. And so here's the nuance that I wanted to throw out there and see what you guys thought about it. But the nuance for me, from perspective, I'm making an assumption here. So let me say this clear. So for the white creator, I'm assuming that the majority of the followers may be white. I'm just making that assumption so that this question I have makes sense. And then for the Black creator, maybe not all 1 million followers are Black, but the majority of them probably more likely is Black as well. That's an assumption that I made to throw this out. And I was like, at the end of the day, the game is the game. People are going to offer, in a sense, what they can offer you. It's part of the game. It's part of the understanding. But it versus me just going strictly to racism, I thought about, generally speaking, the white community has about $10 to every $1 that we have. I'm talking about just collectively, that's the case. So I took that 300,000 that the white creator had, and I was like, okay, if the branding company goes to the Black creator and offer them 15,000 with the assumption they're going to get $1 from every, that they might get $1 from every average out $1 per follower, that's $1 million they would make out of, in a sense, if you did it that way. But if you take that white creator and you take that same equivalency, so that's $10 to 1, that's 300 times 10. That's $3 million of opportunity. Again, I'm kind of doctoring the numbers based on the numbers that I understand collectively. So in a sense, that 200,000, they could make more money off of it just because of the opportunity based on the amount of funding and who that particular audience is. So that was a thought that, again, I'm not trying to let the white people off the hook or anything.
Well,
I'm just talking about thinking about it from a bigger business perspective. And sometimes we just kind of see it as racism versus understanding the actual numbers of why one may be offered 200,000 for 300,000 versus 15,000 for 1 million followers. Go ahead, Dr. Javet.
Now, I would say I kudos to you and congratulations for looking at it that way. I always underline everything in racism, right? So we're not saying that it's not, because it very well could be, and most likely it's foundational because it's rooted in America, right? However, it's not only, is what I would say, right? It's not only, like, when you start thinking about it from a business perspective, ROI, return on investment, what are they getting for that? So I think racism, of course, is always, the root of all the things when we're seeing disparities. But when we're talking about it from a business perspective, it could be perceived value, which is kind of what you're getting at, right? What is the value of this person's numbers and their return? But it's also, what is the product, right? We don't even know what the product is. Is this a product that was geared more towards white individuals, or is it a Black product? Because if we have a Black product that's going in front of a Black audience and a Black influencer, and that perceived value is there, they might get more money. So these types of things sometimes they're difficult to look at because we don't have all of the pieces to be able to, you know what I'm saying, put it together well. But I think when you talk about the value as a business owner, we're going to look at those numbers. And we ourselves, I wouldn't do that. That's a lie. I was going to say, even me, if I was looking at my numbers, I always go overboard when it's somebody that's Black. I tip higher, I show more love. So I'm always going to do a little bit of something extra when it's Black, but we don't have enough of the information. But I like that you went to that, because as a business owner, sometimes I got to put on both hats. Sometimes when I'm doing something, I'll be like, I don't like that. That ain't right. As a consumer, I'll be like, they tripping. Then I put on my business hat and I'll be like, okay, but I can see it like this and that. Okay, we did it for that. That makes better business sense. But as a consumer, I don't like it. So, yeah.
All right, let me go to Terry, because again, this is the mental dialogue perspective. So I'm into the psychology. And so if we just, like you said, without the parameters or knowing the specific parameters, which we can't know in these businesses because we're not privy to it. But without that, we kind of slap that on the top of it. And so it's kind of like you're adding like a mental block just by slapping that with the look, if that makes sense, that perspective of like, oh man, this is what I'm up against, versus I would say going to someone like yourself or a Terry and just understanding the game, because you may be offered that because you're new in the game. Maybe 10 years from now you get to 200,000 because you've done enough deals or you've built enough brand. Like our ancestors let us get to this space. Like I got chill bumps saying, hey, let's learn the game and play the game versus continuing to look at everything under the guise that's actually hurting us. Desire to get into game, the need to want to stay in the game. Go ahead, Terry. I know I'm kind of rambling, so go ahead, brother.
So I think the vantage point that I want to come from is, if I was advising the Black creator on how to approach that negotiation, in a sense, what would I say to them? And not just what I say to them, this is how I approach every one of those negotiations. Because obviously we find ourselves at the table with, these Goliath companies. And I say this, even though I think we do amazing work, I'm also very aware that on some level, everything is a commodity. And so yes, we may feel like we're uniquely qualified to do something with excellence, but excellence is a subjective concept, right? So if we take a all things being equal approach to it, and we say, well, there are thousands of firms just like Orange Strategy, or there are thousands of entrepreneur consultants, marketing consultants like Terry Simmons, right? Like all things being equal. And I'm at the table and a company's offering me $15,000, but I think what we have to offer is worth $200,000. The question becomes two things. A, do I have leverage going in? Meaning, how difficult is it to find another me or find another firm like mine? Right now, The issue comes in, Montoya, is that collectively as a community, we devalue ourselves. So I reckon, like, I think I'm talented and I think I have value to bring to the table, but I recognize that there's some brothers out here that are way smarter than me, got more education, that are more creative, that have done more, and they might be willing to take that 15 grand. So in knowing that, that's what impacts your positioning at the table, because
Mhm.
it sets a precedence when it comes to dealing with our businesses. That is, well, we can lowball them because in most cases, and I'm not trying to say that this is wrong, I am 23 years in, and sometimes I still have to make this decision.
Right.
Sometimes you're willing to take the 15,000
Right.
because it does create leverage. It does create something in your portfolio that you can then use for the next deal. It does create credibility around your performance or your brand. And the problem is that sometimes we never get out of that cycle.
Mm.
So we'll be 11, 12, 15 years in and
Still.
still taking deals for exposure, still taking deals because it's a brand that I always wanted to work with. And not saying no, access to my intel, access to my audience is worth XYZ fair market value without regard for race. But as Doc was saying, and I hope you don't mind me calling you Doc, as
No,
Doc
it's
was
okay.
saying,
That's
yeah, if Doc, as Doc was saying, it's like, well, yeah, you might feel like it's worth that, but is it really worth that? Like, what ends up happening is that white creator, yes, the value of their audience and the purchasing power, collective purchasing power, as you were saying, Montoya, to their audience, might be a certain metric, right? But again, if we're taking the all things being equal approach, let's just say both audiences bring the same value, bring the same potential value for growth for the company that wants to put money behind it. Then it becomes like, how difficult are you as an individual or you as a firm the same thing happens with traditional employment. Like you
Yeah,
could you
that's where
could
I
be
was gonna
you
go
could be
next. I was gonna go there next,
you
but
could
go
be
ahead.
going for a VP of marketing position, and you feel like, you know what, I'm worth 240 grand plus comp plus stock, whatever, right? And maybe they want you to work with a specialized audience, right? They're bringing you in because you understand a specialized audience that they want to target. Somebody that looks like you, has a similar background, has a similar vantage point, has similar credibility with that audience, might be willing to take 170. So when you put it side by side, if the resumes look comparable, and if I'm gonna get the same energy from both sides, I'm gonna get the same credibility from both sides. And we go into these negotiations, whether it's conscious or unconscious, we go into these negotiations knowing that, knowing that somebody just like me might just be happy to be at the table. They might just
Right.
be happy to say they're working with Nabisco, just happy to say they're working with Nike, or just happy to
Right.
say that they're working with Procter and Gamble. And instead of standing on, as we like to say, business and saying, no, this is what access is worth. But see, the thing is, because we are typically underfunded, and we may be dealing with cash flow issues at different times,
Mhm.
that
say that.
30,000, even though is there you go. It's like,
Mhm.
let me take that, live to fight another day, get on social media and tout that I'm working with this big brand. But really, that type of collaboration should be transformative for your business. It should be something that you could build capacity around. So that
Okay.
single creator that wants to hire an assistant, wants to hire a manager, wants to hire a financial person to make sure that their financial systems and protocols are in place, should be able to base their operation around those types of collaborations, particularly if it's going to be residual. But what ends up happening is, you take 15,000 5 times when you should have pushed for
Right.
200,000. Then now you end up you're trying to meet an operational expectation that you don't have the capacity to meet. And that's a lot of times why you get poor experiences with our businesses. You even take our restaurants, where we're going to pride ourselves on having the lowest prices and the biggest portions, right? But when you go into a different dining environment, it's small portions and it's all about the ambiance and the service, right? And we'll say, well, the black business took too long, or the service was lacking, or whatever the case is. And it's like, yeah, because the head cook is trying to run the register and
Right.
greet people and do everything. So it's the same thing in every space. And I'm not letting us off the hook, because there's some
Absolutely.
accountability that we need to own. But that's my perspective on it, is that when you go in, you got to know if you got leverage. If you don't have leverage, then what's the opportunity cost? Is the monetary value of the deal plus the exposure something that you can then help to catapult you to the next level, or are you just taking on a deal that's devaluing you, and do you need to stand on that that precedence? And that can be
Nah,
a
again,
difficult. Yeah.
No, I love all the factors, and that's why I wanted to do this dialogue, right? To look at these clips and just get in and let people hear how people who do business to the degree that you do and help others do business, because y'all both help others do this. I wanted to kind of just let people hear all of the perspectives versus just kind of what we jump to on social media, because I think that's helpful for our community to think about it. Like as I just keep always saying, and I'm not saying I'm right, but I'm just saying the game is the game. Like that's what I'm gonna keep saying throughout it, because like to your point, Terry, at different stages, the sacrifice may be worth it. At other times, like you say, but you also have to be aware: are you sacrificing too much? Like it's not an easy game, and for the person on the other end that's offering the business, like you said, they're gonna take the 170 employee over the 240 if they're getting relatively the same thing. That's an understandable thing, and that has nothing to do with race or anything. And I'm not saying race. Like you said, go ahead, Doctor. Javet, go ahead.
As I said, excuse me, Terry made so many good points. I had to take notes. I'm in a hotel, so I don't have paper. So, but anyways, he made some really good points. And the reason why I brand myself as brand your billion strategist is because that's the game. The game is leveraging your talent, your skill, what you know. And that's the negotiation part we don't understand. And branding your billions it's bigger than just entrepreneurs. I do it in CEO spaces. I do it with executives, because as Black people, we need to know when we sit at the table how to represent ourselves, how to tell our story, how to leverage our talent and our skill. To Terry's point, when you don't know how to do that and you sit down at the negotiating table, you take what's offered to you because you don't know how to say or present or dictate or show what the return on the investment is going to be for people. But we do it, like he said, not just in entrepreneurship, we do it in business. We do it when we're as careers, when we sit down to negotiate our pay, because I always say everybody's a CEO. I hand my client an invoice, you hand your client a timesheet. We all have customers and clients that we have to show up for, and we have to know how to brand the brilliance that we're going to bring and deliver. If you're just sitting down and just happy to get the check, which is okay, because like you know, if you start a business and you're trying to get your name out there, it's okay to take those deals once or twice because you have to use those to leverage your portfolio. But at some point, you have to start being able to brand yourself and say, this is what I'm worth. Yeah, I see what John is doing at 170,000, but can he do this? But does he show up like this? But does he have this track record? But can he bring this to the table? And that's where I think we're not doing the best. And some of that is like Terry was saying, we've already lowered the ball before we've walked into the room. We're just happy to sit at the table. We think that they're doing us a favor instead of we're bringing the audience. I'm bringing my sauce. I'm bringing meat. I'm bringing my brilliance. This is what I'm going to do for your brand. And because we don't necessarily show up like that, we don't know how to get them to understand our value. We know they like us because we're there, but we don't know how to necessarily get that negotiation to leverage the value that we actually bring, or our brilliance that is the reason why we're sitting at that table.
Nah, good stuff. All right, this clip right here is a little longer than I typically play, but I've tucked it for a long time, like almost a year, because I wanted to do this dialogue correctly, because this is a dialogue kind of within our own selves as far as one of our brands promoting to our consumers, Black consumers. And I wanted to make sure I was careful with this, and you are the right two people for me to do this dialogue, because some of what I'm going to say probably won't be okay. But again, that's what y'all are here for. Me, correct me if I am wrong. But this is Actively Black. I'm pretty sure y'all have heard of the brand. And this was a post that I don't know how long ago this brother did it, but I had it for probably at least a year. So this may have happened a year ago. And this is the first time I've been willing to publicly talk about it. I'm not talking about him. We're just going to dialogue about the concepts and the things that he was referring to.
So I know a lot of people are going to be upset with what I have to say, but I've gotten this far by always authentically sharing where I stand on things, so I'm going to continue to do so. I saw the new Polo Ralph Lauren Oak Bluffs Martha's Vineyard HBCU collection, and it's a beautiful collection, by the way. I believe there is a Morehouse alum that is the creative director over there now, so I want to say, man, you're doing an incredible job. Love what you're doing. But what I didn't see as I was scrolling through the press release post was a single comment from a Black person about the price. And that's where I have a problem. We just launched a 100% cotton collection utilizing a 100% Black-owned supply chain where we're paying Black farmers above market prices for their cotton and their labor so that we can financially support them in a meaningful way. Since that launch, we have received hundreds, if not thousands, of messages, emails, DMs from Black people telling us that we're too expensive and they're not paying $60 for a t-shirt. This t-shirt in the Polo Ralph Lauren collection costs $128 for this t-shirt. And I haven't seen not a single comment complaining about how expensive this shirt is. So I'm wrecking my brain trying to figure out how are we a 4-year-old Black-owned brand with a track record of giving back to the Black community, paying for Black kids to learn how to code, donating to Black Mamas Matter to fight the abysmal Black maternal mortality rate where Black women are dying at 3 times the rate of anybody else in this country, paying for Black men to get access to mental health services. We hire Black talent, and yet we constantly receive nonstop criticism about our prices. Ralph Lauren pledged $2 million to 12 HBCU schools over a 5-year period. Now, when you do the math and you divide that $2 million by 12 schools, it comes out to around $166,000. You divide that over a 5-year span, it's around $33,000 a year to these schools. Ralph Lauren does $7 billion a year in annual revenue. Actively Black donated $500,000 off of $5 million in revenue. That's 10% of our revenue that we donated back to the Black community. And yet every single day, somebody is telling me that we are too expensive. I'm not anti-Ralph Lauren. I'm not anti-Polo. I'm not anti-Nike. I'm not anti-anybody. I'm just for us more than I am for anybody else. And I'm trying to figure out what we have to do for our people to see us that way. When are we going to value us more than we value what somebody else does? For those that say, man, you comparing yourself to 50-year-old and 100-year-old brands, this is my reply to that. Those brands are skyscrapers. We see them. We know all of those brands. But anybody who's seen the construction of a skyscraper, you know that they dig over 160 feet deep into the ground. And that's where they lay the foundation and start building from. For Black-owned brands, that's where we're building from. We're building from underneath the ground. And a lot of times we don't get the same support and grace before we even break the surface. So if we're really serious about building a Black-owned skyscraper, we need us to invest and value our brands while we're still building underneath the ground. So to be honest, this isn't really a pricing issue. This is a value issue. What do we value? Do we value what we're building more than we value what already exists from others who don't look like us and for the most part don't care about us? Again, shout out to those HBCU alum that are over at Ralph Lauren doing the great work you're doing. Absolutely beautiful collection. To the tribe, we have a 100% cotton collection that's available right now that supports these Black farmers who are being discriminated against by the United States government. We are feeding our own. We're not waiting on anybody else. This is not reparations. This is reclamation. And our HBCU collection will be redropping in September just in time for homecoming season in October. Love to the tribe.
Four minutes, long clip, a lot of good stuff in there. I want to say that. I want to say there's a lot of good things to make us think about. That's what we do, right? All I ask is that you think on this show. So I wanted to think about a lot of what he said. I respect a lot of what he said, but I was hurt by the post.
Why?
Yeah, I'm about to break it down.
Why? I liked it. I thought he was right on point.
I got it.
I'm
I got
interested
it.
in hearing
Yeah,
why
I'm hurt by the post. I'm hurt by the post. I'm hurt by the post from this perspective. Again, this is the mental dialogue perspective. Beat it up if you like. Mm-hmm. But I'm hurt by the post because as someone who likes what Actively Black does, I saw that it was keyed off and cued off as he, like he said, it wasn't just about the price, but that's what he saw and made him decide to address the public with the red, right? And I think his miss, in my opinion, completely is on the market that he's after. By in my opinion, in misunderstanding the market, meaning they're offering a clothesline that is high-end market. That is the way they're offering or coming out to the market, they're marketing to the high end. So if you're marketing to the high end, I think that video is talking to the lower market and the middle market as if you're not branding to the high-end market only. And I don't know if he's aware of that. So I don't know the brother, so I can't say if he's aware of it. But if you come out and market, if your product is coming out and marketing to the high end, what happens is, to me, it hurt me because the miss is this. This is what I think he misunderstands. So Actively Black at their price point, the people that are in the comments that's bothering him, that's complaining about the price point, is literally majority Black people who love what they're seeing and can't afford the prices. So that is an audience that likes what you're doing. And so they're literally making the complaint because it's above their price point. It's not the people that can easily pay for the 135 polo thing that he's talking about, that they're offering with the polo brand. They're not in the cup. They're not in his comments at all complaining about the price points for Actively Black. So you're basically collectively unaware of those of us in the community, because we actually assume that we have more people on the high end in our community than we actually have. We only got out of the 45 billion Black Americans living in this country, only 2 million of them are above the 50 percentile on wealth. Like if you're unaware of that, you will say, oh, the people that can't afford you don't value you. No, they love it. Their complaint is because they want what you have, but they're making the complaint because they can't pay their price. They don't pay those prices for that. But you're just mixing up the marketplace. That's a little bit. I'll be quiet. I'm repeating myself, so I'll let y'all jump in. I have some other points, so let me let y'all jump on this first point and give me y'all thoughts.
Oh, Terry, would you like to go first, or do you mind if I go?
Feel free.
Okay, I didn't want to just jump in. So, oh man, I love this. This is one of my favorite conversations because it's a value conversation. So, first of all, you said Ralph Lauren is a high-end brand. Why can't Actively Black be a high-end brand? Ralph Lauren does not market to Black people. Actively Black does. The Black community, we value things in other communities more than we value things in our community. So we will look at a Ralph Lauren and say, it's Ralph Lauren. Therefore, it must be more valuable. Therefore, I'm not going to complain about the price, not for Gucci, not for Ralph Lauren, not for the white street up the store. But when we put a Black tag on it, even if we say it's a high-end Black business or establishment, we're going to complain about the price because it's a Black business, and who do they think they are? If you were to compare the two products, two cotton shirts, whatever the case might be, this one is $128. Let's just say that their t-shirt is $68, right? The value to me is, if they're both cotton shirts, this one's $168, this one is $68, but this one is sourced from Black farmers. That increases the value to me because I know that the money's going back into my community. So I see the value in that. The other thing is, when we start talking about looking at businesses and brands, and somebody's looking at a Black person is looking at this Black brand and saying $68 is too much money for me, then it's not for you. You're not their market. If it's that's across the board. I don't care if it's coaching, food, a restaurant, a car. If you say it's too much money, it's not for you. That's it. Because the other thing is, when you say things like, it's too much, people will go and buy Ralph Lauren, or it's too much money, or you were talking about the 2 million people who can afford it. You know how many folks is walking around here who can't afford Ralph Lauren and will spend the money on it the same way we spend money on hair?
It's not as many as you think it is.
The same way we spend money on cars.
It's nowhere close to what you think it is.
There are folks.
I don't know, Montoya. We usually agree, but I got to push back on that one.
No shade, no tea. There are people driving into apartment complexes with Mercedes-Benz. So we will spend more money on cars and looking like we have money, looking like we're doing something great. It's $800 on our hair, but we won't spend money on stocks, and like we spend money on things that we think have value, that we think are important, but not necessarily things that really are important, like supporting a Black-owned business. To me, so when we start talking about value, you have I usually have this conversation with candles. You have, because as Black women, we get into candles, and people will say, I ain't no way I'm spending $25 for a candle. That's fine. Don't spend $25 for a candle. Get a $4 candle. But don't be mad at me because I spent $25 on a candle. I can afford a $25 candle. I like a luxurious $25 candle. No shade, no tea against the $4 candle. the $10 candle, the $12 candle, the $25 candle just wasn't made for you. So it's not a Ralph Lauren, to me, it's not a Ralph Lauren issue. It's if Actively Black wants to sell a $68 t-shirt, they can. They don't have to come back to the community and explain why they do it. You just might not be their customer that can afford a $68 t-shirt.
Let me say this one thing and then Terry let you go. I absolutely understand that you may not be their customer. It's not that I don't understand that. I want to just kind of make sure I'm laying the context of what I'm actually saying. So the context is you're absolutely right that it may not be for you. I'm just highlighting that that person still is going to naturally make that complaint. They're just going to naturally make that complaint, but they also can't afford it. And I'm saying what happens is you're using that person to determine how we are collectively. Like what I'm saying he has a right to their opinion, but they also can't afford it. You understand that you're not offering it to them. So if you understand you're not offering it to them, I understand it doesn't feel good that they say, why is it so much? But at the same time, if that's who you're using as your barometer, when you know that you're only going after the high end, if you know that's who you're going after, that comes with the territory as well. I'm just saying, I think y'all don't realize how many people are doing what you're saying. I'm very aware that Black people in general will buy things for the reasons that y'all are talking about. We as a collective think it's more people doing it than actually is doing it. We think it's way more of us doing it than actually are doing it. I'm gonna put in this particular clip I had on my Politically Conscious show to give more perspective on this. But go ahead, Terry, give me your pushback, brother.
Well, I think you're talking to the economics of it, and that data can't be disputed. Okay. However, to the brother's point in the clip, and also to Doc's point, there's a difference between what you can afford and what you can afford responsibly. And it would be disingenuous for us to say that our community collectively, and we're not a monolith. I'm not trying to, cast a wide net, but for the sake of this conversation, collectively, we tend to be more willing than other communities to buy things that we cannot responsibly afford. I've been Black 52 years. That's just the truth. Now, what happens is when you're that Black-owned brand, when you're that Black-owned coach, when you're the Black-owned restaurant, whatever it is, you see those behaviors being perpetuated as it relates to purchasing goods and services from other communities. And you can easily feel like, why am I being devalued by my own people when my business is more of a resource to the community that it serves than these other businesses are? Which is a fair emotion to have. Yes. However, it doesn't serve you as a CEO of your company. So what I'm saying is two things can be true.
Yeah, absolutely.
Everything that he said is true.
Right.
If he's speaking from an activism standpoint, if he's speaking from a Black consciousness standpoint, and he should be that, given the nature of his brand, his age, his ability to communicate with an audience, he should do that. But when he's in the boardroom making decisions around pricing, he almost has to compartmentalize that. And here's what I mean by that.
Yes. Unfortunately,
when you think about anything exquisite, anything that we consider to be exquisite, it's going to be what? Italian shoes. It's going to be Swiss watches. It's going to be European vehicles, right? So that's tied to an entire race, culture, ethnicity, and how we perceive the things that are produced from those communities. We also understand that a lot of that, in some cases, most of it, originated from our communities. Like our impact on culture as a race is undeniable, right? Whether we're talking fashion and we're talking culinary, whatever we're talking about, music, it's undeniable. Engineering, it doesn't matter. It's undeniable. However, because of how our community is perceived internally and externally, you take the same product and put our brand on it, and it unintentionally devalues it unless it's partnering with something that's already positioned from another community. That's a psychology issue. That's a social issue. But when you're sitting back and making decisions about pricing psychology, because there's a psychology around pricing, right? And there's also a science to pricing. The worst advice that we give Black founders is charge what you're worth. Because what it speaks to is intrinsic value. My intrinsic value is immeasurable. Your intrinsic value is immeasurable. You get what I'm saying? That's immeasurable. How we're positioned and how our brand is perceived is measurable. Guess how it's measurable? In them comments.
I would say it's measurable by the sales versus the comments. That's what
yeah. But I'm saying anecdotally. Now he said, well, you know, people argue that these are 100-year brands. Well, but that's a somewhat valid argument, and here's the reason why. You can't accelerate legacy. You can't accelerate equity in a thing.
Right.
So I think like our community is not dumb. We know that 100% cotton is 100% cotton. It doesn't matter where it comes from. We know that there's not like some tangible benefit associated with wearing a nameless polo style shirt with the same stripes that a Ralph Lauren shirt can have on it, right? We understand that when you place the logo on the left chest, that it doesn't improve its ability to keep you warm or keep you dry or whatever, right? It only improves your perception as a person and how you feel in it. Mm-hmm. Like that's what it does, right? And particularly if you're talking about someone that's low income, and let's just say they are first generation having a little bit of something. The number one thing that you can do to accelerate or reposition yourself is to drape yourself in things that already have equity built in them. Right. So if you just got your first $87,000 job out of college and you're the first person in your family to graduate from college, the first thing you're gonna probably do, if you haven't been conditioned to behave differently, is go buy a little BMW. So now you pulling up, you're gonna put whatever on your feet, you're gonna put whatever on your back, you're gonna put whatever on your wrist. And now when you walk in, you feel like that's more credible. You feel like you have more value as a person when you enter the room. And are we over-indexed on that in our community? We are. We are. But as one of my first like real businesses.
Can I jump in just a little bit, Terry? Just a little bit, because I want to respect. I only got y'all for an hour, so I want to be as possible more nuanced about the dialogue. Like we're still making blanket statements inside of what we're saying. And again, what I do look at is the economics and the data. And so like there are studies, for example, like we say, like you said, we're over indexing what you just talked about. I don't disagree with you. I think we're unaware of how much overindexed we are, meaning it's not to the degree that we think we are. For example, we always hear the $1.3 trillion in spending power that we have, right? But most people are not attuned to that 76% of that goes to things that we need. That then you only got like 23%. So when they study they've studied the phenomenon of people keeping up with the Joneses. Like there are certain conditions in which people do that. That still ends up only being about 3% of discretionary income. Like it's only like you don't see the phenomenon in certain conditions, but when you see it, which is based on the psychology that you guys are talking about, I know it's there. I agree with you. I've seen it. Like you said, we've lived it. So I'm not saying it's not there, but when you find out to what extent, and this is something, and I'm saying this from the standpoint of some of this comes from being an after school instructor. For me personally, I'll give a relative experience here real quick. From being an after school instructor at different types of schools, from the poor end to the high end. Like I was in an international school all the way, and actually being able to see the dynamic for myself. And there's this concept, for example, because when you go look at the consumer index number, like there's a whole study. You can actually see what different cultures spend more money on. Like, of course, we're very aware of what we spend more money on, but there's other cultures, they have things that if you were a part of their culture, you realize, oh, they spend way more money on that than we ever would. Like it's right. Like that 1.3 is a real study that comes out of Georgia University every year. So once you start understanding that, you're like, oh, okay. So then what happens is, like we may want the Jordans, for example, but you can't tell me a parent stretching themselves to get one pair of Jordans, because I've seen this, for their kid to have it to start the school. But at the end of the year, they got a pair of beat up Jordans. And I always give this example to kind of highlight, I understand the parent sacrificing, quote unquote, sacrificing for something that probably ain't the best buy. But I also know, and because I've mentored some of these kids outside of the school, I also know that they don't have much money for nothing else, and they're not doing it. They made the sacrifice so their kid wouldn't get picked on at the beginning of the year. And we're going, look at what we do. And I'm like, no, they stretched out for 200 once. They didn't stretch nothing else. I'm just saying, but if you don't realize that's what's happening, you'll just go in the line, look at us discretionally spending our money on things we don't need. And that doesn't happen to the degree that we say collectively in our community. I have the numbers to back what I'm saying.
Yeah, you're in simplified terms, you're saying we can't spend what we don't have. Like in simplified terms, we can't spend what we don't have. If someone's living below the poverty line, they're going to have minimal, if any, discretionary resources to put into something that doesn't provide food, clothing, and shelter. I completely
let's
get
go
that.
above the poverty line, though. Let's go even the people that are above it. Like it's like we actually think that process. I don't want to make my argument. I don't like doing this. I don't want to make it just the extreme because it's obvious that they don't have. But I'm saying even when you go above the poverty line, when you get into the 40,000s and the 50,000s, like we really think we're overdoing it to a degree that we cannot do even at the 60,000, at the 70,000. Like we think we're doing it way more than we are.
That's fair. That's fair. I would say and, not but.
Yes.
But and.
Yeah, definitely and.
What the brother was saying in the clip is still applicable from this perspective. If you take the Ralph Lauren, you take the Gucci, you take the Prada, whatever you want to lay on the table, right? And then you take Actively Black and put it on side, and then you say all things being equal, it fits the same. Let's just say it came from the same mill, it's the same weight, and the only thing different about it is the graphic that's on the left chest. What he's saying is, why do we not value it at the same level that we value other brands that are not originated from our communities and do not make the reinvestment in our communities that his brand makes?
No,
and
I understand what he's saying. Let me throw one example just to tweak it. We literally went and bought Carl Kanai and Sean John and Walker Wear the exact same way as we did Polo. Like we blow up our brands too. Like we make, like, again, I agree with what he's saying. Here's why it hurt me. Here's the answer, because I said it hurt me. It hurt me because you said something very key earlier, Terry. You just said it doesn't serve him to be in that space. So what I'm talking about is not that he's wrong. I'm not saying it hurt me because he's wrong. It hurt me because it didn't serve him to go on the internet and offer that. You were absolutely right about having that. He's right about. Let me say this real quick.
How he delivered the message, not that you're not saying his message is wrong. You're saying how he delivered it. It didn't deserve to be on the internet.
Right, and this is I'm getting into the psychology of being able to do what Terry said earlier. You have to compartmentalize it to continue doing the work, because Terry's absolutely right. Everything he felt, he has an absolute right to feel. So let me say that as clear as possible. But for the benefit of our community, you got to be able to do what you said, Terry. It's hard for him to do. I'm not saying it's easy. I understand why he went to the internet and did it. We're in the era where eventually, if you're emotional, sometimes you come to the internet. I'm challenging that brother to keep doing what he's doing. I want to keep supporting him. I just wish he wouldn't have come to the internet, because he has to be able to do what you said, Terry. Go ahead.
How do you have mental dialogue about something that you don't talk about? So if he doesn't come and bring it to the internet, how do we have the conversation?
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough.
Like, how do we grow? How do we get educated? How do we things if he doesn't bring it? Now, the way he brought it, we could talk about how he presented it, but the facts are the facts. Like, we have these conversations at the barbershop, at the beauty shop, amongst ourselves, but if we don't have it with the community, how does it change?
No, but the facts are not necessarily the facts. We blow up our own brands too. So it's not the facts that we blow up other brands. Like, we think that's not a fact. That's not a fact.
And every brand you named was tied to a celebrity. So we got so that a Carl Kanai
reinforce it. It's just brand. But here it is. The reason them black kids stand in line for a Jordan is because both of y'all understand that Nike has at one point had a $1 billion budget for the promotion. So
are they buying Nike or are they buying Michael Jordan?
Listen to what I'm saying. They had a $1 billion, literally a $1 billion budget, $1 billion budget. So we always talking about what the companies do to brand. So we're not, here it is. we think we're worse consumers than most of America is high consumer. Like Americans are consumers. Like the numbers show that Americans are consumers. The brands that have the most money to market and promote. So yes, if you put a black celebrity or Michael Jordan and they also put $1 billion behind marketing it, what the heck do you expect? But it's the same thing for me. I work in I'm a beer vendor at these events, and the way white concerts versus black concerts, they look totally different. But we're not going to spend based on the type of genre it is that they would spend on the stuff that they spend on. But again, that's been marketed to that group. It's not marketed to us. So therefore, we're not going to spend on that. Like we forget about.
These are marketed to us. So what happens is these major brands, we'll just use a Louis Vuitton's brand. I forget the name of the brand, but let's say Louis Vuitton's brand. They wanted to go into makeup. Who did they get? A Rihanna. They took their money with a black face and personality, put it together, and they put it out to the community. So what you're talking about is having these huge corporations and these big marketing campaigns and budgets, getting a black face to then come and pull black money out of the community. All he's saying is, hey, I am a black face. I'm in the black community, and yet we still find more value, or I'm not gonna say more value.
And that's what I'm challenging in that part.
No pushback for these businesses and brands charging that much money because they have a higher budget versus a brand over here that has a lower budget.
Because they have a higher budget. Marketing works. Marketing works.
I
If you give me a black company that can do the exact same thing, and we're gonna line up and do it. They wouldn't win. They wouldn't win. A black company that could put $1 billion behind their marketing and put a black celebrity, we're gonna line up and buy that just like we do the white company. We don't do that. We don't do it. That's like I said. Yeah, if we all things equal, we support our own. Like here in Atlanta, you used to live here, Lanee.
Atlanta is a very small pocket of.
I'm about to give an example of what I'm about to say. I'm about to give an example when we were here. You remember the Village Market thing that they used to do like every quarter here?
Market. Yes.
Okay, right. Remember how that was? Okay, yeah. Literally, they would have 80 brands in there, all black on selling things. You know what? We not only did we line up, we had to pay $10 to get in. I always tell this example. I said there ain't a mall in Atlanta right now that if they charge $10 to get in the mall, that the malls that we're all in, if they charge $10 to get in the mall, we ain't going in that mall. But to get to a Village Market that's all us, we was paying $10 before we went just to go in there to spend our money. Like, don't tell me we won't when I got many examples of what we will do.
But do you know why you have to pay $10 to get in there? This is my 2 cents. I don't know.
Probably.
But I'm going to tell you why I believe it is, because I'm working on something right now. I'm not going to say their name. I'm working on something right now for the Black community here. And I am fighting them on price. Everything's supposed to be free. Everything needs to be low. And I'm like, y'all not going to make no money like this. They're like, we're not even trying to really make money. You're not trying to make money? You have a business, but you're not trying to make money. Why in our community do we have businesses? And somebody said it, start out low. That is a horrible business model. Start out low.
But,
like the reason why they have to charge you $10 to get in is most likely, I don't know because I'm not there. Most likely they're not charging enough for the booth. Most likely they're not charging enough for their vendors. And so the business itself has to make money. A lot of times we start putting little bitty things, add-ons here and there so that we can cover our costs because we won't just charge what it should be initially. So then we get these types of pushbacks. It's $10 to get in, plus you got to shop.
There was no pushbacks. We lined up in droves. That's
I'm not talking about you. I'm not talking about.
Yeah, I'm saying we black people lined up in droves to go into to shop with 80 black vendors. We lined up in droves to do.
The white mall going to shop with people, you shouldn't have to pay $10 to get in. Like if you're going in to do real business, you should just be able to go in and do business.
I get that, but I'm just telling you, the same black people won't go to the mall for $10. They won't. We'll pay that $10 to get to us. Like we got this thought of how we value each other.
You shouldn't have to pay.
You're missing my point. My point is how much we are wanting to buy from ourselves that we will pay. We will overpay. There's a sister that opened up. You know, we know the Asians have the hair market or whatever. These people in Tennessee about 4 years ago opened up a black-owned one, and they sold out of everything in 2 days. Don't tell me we don't support our own.
Oh, we're not. Nobody's saying we don't support our own. We do support our own. We just want to support them at a lower rate. We just want to support them at a lower cost. I'm not saying we don't. We absolutely support them, but we're going to support them and say, how come you charge so much?
Yeah, like I said, the person that's saying it typically ain't, like you said, it's not their market. They're naturally going to make the complaint. But go ahead, Terry. Any thoughts on what I'm saying here, man?
I think it's two things could be true. And if there's two elements to this conversation. One of it is community-based. The other element of it is kind of talking to founders. Okay. So from a community-based perspective, if we talking from an advocacy standpoint, if we talking from an accountability standpoint, we're talking to our community about how we should think and behave as consumers, then there's a lot of truth in what he said. I'm going back to my original point. Right. If I'm talking to that young brother as a founder, I would say this is a principle that I live by as the founder of my company, is that you can never blame the consumer. There's no value as a founder, as a brand manager, as a marketer in blaming the consumer. Right. You can only seek to either understand or influence the psychology of the consumer. And you have to yield to that, or you got to make investment in repositioning. So unfortunately, I'm gonna go back to the point that I made a few minutes ago. If you take 7 other brands that are originating in other communities, and you put it side by side with Actively Black, and if there's a way for us to measure how those brands are respectively positioned in the Black community's minds, I think he said it's been in business, what, 4 years?
4 years. At that time, it might be 5 now. This was like a year ago.
Maybe 5. There's no parity in how those brands are positioned in the minds of our community. So then it would be unfair to do an apples to apples, or attempt to do an apples to apples comparison in terms of what we're willing to pay for those respective products. And so I would say to him, kudos to you for the morality of what you're doing. Absolutely. Kudos to you for the legacy associated with what you're doing, meaning from a supply chain standpoint, meaning what the brand represents, and his advocacy around creating that ecosystem, right? Understanding when you spend $1 with me, 10 cents goes back into the community.
Yes,
that's
tell your story.
Narrative.
Tell your story. Absolutely.
However, what Doc is saying is that that also has to be a sustainable business strategy.
I agree.
So if it doesn't give him the leverage that he thinks that it was going to give him, meaning I think he perceived that if I make that a part of the narrative associated with my brand, that my people are going to be more willing to pay a premium for it. And based on the comments and maybe the sales, he was probably off on that, because we buy based on emotion and then we justify it with logic. We don't lead with logic. So nobody shows up and looks at a shirt and says, man, this is dope. I'm going to buy it because of where the cotton was sourced. That ends up being a benefit of buying it. Right. But that's not what compels you to pick it up and walk to the register. Right. It's I bought this shirt that I love and it does this thing. Exactly. And so, I mean, you can even look inside of one brand's ecosystem, like you know that a Camry and a Lexus is the same damn car. Exactly. We know it's the same car. Exactly. However, we can't ignore the psychology around the brand. The Lexus brand is better positioned. You take the highest end Camry, the highest end Lexus, you take the brands off, you can't tell them apart. Right? And
that's literally, believe it or not, what you just said, the Camry Lexus thing is the dialogue I'm just trying to push our community to think about business in versus what happened in that video. It's understanding.
Right.
That's really all I'm trying to say, even if I don't know how to say it as good as eloquently as you just said it. All I'm leaning into is just what you just said. And to, like I said, to Dr. Lanee's point, I absolutely understand having to stay in business. So I wasn't even making an argument on whether it's working for their business or not. I was just talking about the dialogue between the consumer and the owner. So the owner has to be aware of the things y'all are saying, and specifically the things that Terry is saying, versus trying to build a relationship with us and make the mistake of publicly coming out. That's hurting the owner. I want to help the owner. I'm not making a complaint about what he said or even saying anything he said was wrong. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying what he.
You don't like his delivery.
I don't think you can reduce it to can you reduce it to delivery?
I agree with Terry. There is a time and a place, and there is a way to do this. But I also think that if we don't have certain conversations, we can't educate people. But I think it's delivery, how you talk about things, how you say things. You can't. There's features and benefits. You can't just rely on this. But we benefit. Features play a part. There's a way to talk about things. But we cannot grow. We cannot do better. We cannot get better if we don't have certain conversations. We have to keep emphasizing that our products are valuable. Every Black product shouldn't be at a low end cost. Like, we have value in our products.
I agree.
That's what I'm hearing him saying. I agree with delivery, but I stand on their water. Their ice is not colder than our ice.
Our community doesn't believe that. Our community doesn't believe that at all.
But sometimes, and not all the time, I deal with businesses every day. I'm seeing people's sales. I'm seeing how our organizations work with us, how people price with us. And if we ourselves don't start standing up in our own community and saying that this is a value and I'm willing to support it and not push back on pricing, nobody else is. When other people come and sit down with us, they look at us. This whole conversation started. We were talking about sitting down to negotiate, right? And brilliance coming out and how you're going to support. If a company goes and looks at your business and reads your comments, and they're talking about your pricing and how you're operating in your own community from your own people, it plays a part in how you leverage your own value. Like, we as a community have to step up and show more value for our own businesses. And a lot of times we're comparing them to celebrities, but somebody has a cousin, a niece, an aunt, or uncle who has a soap business or a restaurant or a t-shirt company, and we will step over that small business, that somebody that we know, to go and buy a brand that we don't know. You're shaking your head no, and it happens often. If it's unfortunate that we will go and buy somebody else's company, business, and brand before we buy our own. It happens more often than not.
So most Black businesses are supported. If they are openly a Black business, the majority of their customers look like them.
But I'm not talking about support. 85%. I'm talking about success.
You just said we'll go do something to go somewhere else. So I'm just saying,
yes.
I'm talking about 10-year long companies. If their marketing allows for them to openly promote that they're Black, 85% of their customers look like them, and that's how they've remained and stayed in business.
I understand that, but what you're talking about is sustaining and support. I'm talking about success. When you look at how much money Black businesses make, and you look at how many of our Black businesses can actually hire employees, we cannot, because we don't make enough money. So we can stay in business for a long time. We can stay solopreneurs for a long time, but we have to be able to also employ people, grow, make money. I'm talking about success.
I understand. I got to let both of you, I want to respect y'all time. Terry, thank you for the time. I didn't get to all the clips I wanted to, because obviously I got passionate about this thing, which is what I can do. I would love, if you got a second, Lanee, I would like to show you one more clip. If Terry, you want to stay, you can stay for it. I just want to make sure I respect our time, because I know you got other stuff to do today as well. So I got a clip that talks about, in Atlanta specifically. Obviously, Atlanta is an anomaly, so let me highlight that, as you said, Lanee. But this is something that, again, I think we're collectively unaware of. And so this is a cut from this guy named Spot On RW. That's what he goes by on social media.
You'll hear it said often that Atlanta is a tale of two cities, but most people don't actually understand why or the severity of the problem. So let's look at the data. This is where the majority of Black folks live in Atlanta, and pay attention to this red line. It's going to be important for everything that we look at. The vast majority of children living in poverty live below this line. If you are uninsured, you likely live below this line. If you have diabetes, you likely live below this line. If you are rent burdened, you live below this line. If you have access to broadband, you likely live below this line. Look at these numbers. 95% of people in the North have access to broadband. If you live below the line, it takes longer to get to work. Your household income is lower. Businesses are significantly smaller, 1 million to 50 million. You don't live close to fresh food. And all of that adds up to living on average 20 years less than if you lived on the north side of the city. All of these charts are from a presentation that the mayor's office is giving where they are proposing to make historic investments in what they're calling the Neighborhood Reinvestment Initiative. It is an initiative to try to put significant capital into all of the neighborhoods that are below the line. All in all, though, for everyone that said that I was making excuses in my last post, although I mostly talk about small business, everything that we are seeing here from a numbers perspective impacts small business. And we cannot continue to have two cities and two different outcomes being produced and 20 years in difference in life expectancy and expect Atlanta to work for anyone in the long run. But I hope this data helps give some context as to what's really going on.
So I love that from that brother because it gives context for, say Atlanta's the Black Mecca. We were fourth for years. We were fourth in the country in income inequality. And after the pandemic, we became number one in the country. And he specifically highlighted that the Black businesses at tops and below that line were at 1 million compared to north of Atlanta, 15 million. And so the context that I'm also trying to add to this dialogue is being aware of who you're marketing to. I have a friend that has a high-end clothing brand that he offers or whatever. And so he literally markets strictly to those that have. And so, and because he understands what he's talking about, he doesn't expect, in a sense, the working class Americans to necessarily support his brand, but he doesn't market to them at all. And so what happens is, yes, when you hear me say Black, they're supported, you're supported based on one, in Atlanta, where you're located and how much money that community has. So there's not going to be an additional amount of success that I think I hear you're referencing to, Lanee. If 85% of the people that walk in or more are people that look like me and I'm in business, they have the money that they have. They're supporting my brand or whatever, but there's not something that same community without an influx of more money or more jobs can do to make me be more successful in that area. Like I think, like I'm saying, what I'm talking about with Actively Black is if he's promoting to that guy, if he's promoting to the people that have, he won't get those comments. He won't get those comments because those who want to support and are complaining about it, the people that are walking, that 85% that are walking in those Black businesses, those businesses are surviving based on what they have. And it's like we have some type of perspective that same group in Atlanta right now, that lower group could somehow propel their businesses along by going in the businesses more somehow. They're already going in there at 85% or above, that they could somehow compel them to look like those above that line. The stuff that line, that's where you get into politics and structural, and we rarely talk about that. We think there's a way that we can economically circulate the dollar to uplift, and that's not how economics work.
So I want to address this comment. You shouldn't arbitrarily support Black-owned businesses. You absolutely shouldn't. You should support good Black businesses doing good Black business. I'm 85% work supporting Black businesses, working with Black businesses. I do get bad service. Let me just say that. Every Black-owned business ain't great. But when I don't find the great one, when I don't find one that does good work, I go out and find another one who does. Absolutely. It's very rarely that I have to go and find business from somebody who doesn't look like me, unless I have to. And if I have to, I have to. I at the end of the day, I'm looking for good work and good service. One of the things that I see happen too often than not is we are the best kept secrets. Our Black businesses do good work. We show up, we operate in excellence more than not. Are there some bad ones out there? There are, but there's way more good ones doing really good work, have really good products, putting money back into the community, and they need our help and they need our support. And it's not to say that people don't, because what the reality is, the people who do, Montoya, they do. You do, I do, Terry does. The people who support Black businesses, we support them. And we go out of our way to support them, and we're intentional. But we need more of us. We need more of us so that we can see our businesses do better. We have too many good businesses that are not getting the support that they need because these other businesses, to your point, have bigger budgets. But our communities, a lot of the infrastructure that we need, a lot of the money that we need, a lot of the businesses and the groceries and all the things that we're talking about, We can have those things if our businesses could charge what they should be charging, if we supported those business at the rate that they're charging, if we understood business and we didn't say, you know what, they're charging more at this Black company than they're charging over here. Well, there's a reason why. That business over there, let's just talk about the hair care industry. The Asians buy in bulk. They buy in bulk. They buy it as a unit. So like 5 to 10 different businesses will go into a purchase, and they're going to get that product for like, let's say $1.75, and they're going to charge $3.75. When a Black-owned business does it by themselves, they have to buy that product for $5. So now they got to sell it $7.50. But we have to understand those. Like there's just so much.
So let's walk through that example. Let's walk through that example. So the example ends up being, if that Black-owned business who has the cost that you just talked about, I agree with you 1,000%. I have a Black buying manifesto that I put at the end of my book, Re-Education of the Negro, and it says, if it's within 25% of what you normally buy, support that Black business. That example you just gave is, if that Black business happens to be, let's go the West End here in Atlanta, and the Asian, because you said the reason you just said, you're still offering it to people who have little money. So their choice just ends up being based on their reality. So, yes. And I'm saying we don't have a good enough dialogue about both of those realities. We got the owner saying you should support, and you got the consumer saying, why are your price so high? I'm trying to have a dialogue about the realities of both of those things. I don't want to have an argument about, I understand why the $7.50 bottle over the $3.50 bottle in the chat. I understand it because of what they make. I'm not saying just to the owner, you should understand it. I'm saying that we end up calling facts because we're typically on one extreme of it. The reality is, if you're in the West End, the reason the businesses can't be structured to build the way you got to be honest about who your market base is. If you're able to put your business on that other side of that line, then you can charge the prices you're talking about, Lanee. Like, that's the reality.
Said something really important right now. You said, if you're honest about who your market is. Is that what you just said?
Yeah, I've been saying that the whole time. That's what made me say I have a problem with Actively Black. Who's your market?
Here's that. I was about to say that. That becomes the question. And unfortunately, sometimes people don't want to admit that they're not that person's market. Just because it says Actively Black doesn't mean it's for every range of Black.
I agree. And I'm saying I'm trying to take in context. I'm agreeing with you. I'm saying we got to talk about it both ways. I am agreeing with you that it's not for me. So yes, I wish our people, anybody watching, I wish if it's not for you, I wish you wouldn't complain about the price. But I'm also realistic. I'm talking about humans are going to make opinions. So I'm talking about the realistic psychology. So the realistic psychology is, even though like I do that because I've been rocking with the circle that I rock around. So I just go, that's not for me. I wish more of our people would do it. But I'm not naive about, naturally, if I want something, but it's too high, it's human. Like, damn, I really want that, but it's too high. Humans are gonna say, damn, that's too high. Like, I don't think we can make our people be like, not say it's not too high when they really want something. Like, that's just not realistic. That ain't something that Black people do. That's anybody does that. So I'm being realistic, but so I'm also challenging. So I'm turning around and challenging the business owner to do what Terry talked about. You got to compartmentalize, and I'm not, because I love that you're the trendsetter and going into business. I'm saying the psychology of being, because I always talk about how unique entrepreneurs are. It's a unique skill set. So I'm hoping that this dialogue is adding to the game of what the entrepreneur, unfortunately, another thing they have to take on being in business. My manifesto is saying to Black people, don't ask for hookups. It's saying that in there. So it's a challenge to the consumer and the entrepreneur. Like we say things are facts and we're kind of missing each other and just keep saying, oh, we don't support our own. I'm like, there ain't no Black business here on the low end that ain't nothing but Black people going in. So you can't tell me we don't support our own, but we'll say that as a blanket statement and hurt our actual development in the current U.S. marketplace. Go ahead, Terry.
Let me say this. I want to go back to something that Doc said a few minutes ago, where she highlighted the minuscule percentage of Black-owned businesses that even have one employee. I believe by most credible studies, 97% of the businesses in our community are not employer firms, so to speak. So they're solopreneurships. And so here's the challenge is that if you're undercapitalized, the worst thing that you can try to compete on is price. Because as Doc said, price, when you start talking about particularly things that are consumables, is going to be based on your ability to leverage your collective purchasing power. That's how you drive the direct costs associated with it down, and you can offer it to the consumer at a lower price, right? And so if you don't have that purchasing power, then obviously you're going to buy it at a higher price, and you're going to have to sell it at a higher price. So I think that one of the most powerful lessons that's coming out of this discussion to Black founders is stop trying to compete on price. Find some other differentiator about what you do. Maybe it is where it's sourced. Maybe it is organic. Maybe it is because it has an ingredient in it that is better for our skin. Whatever it is, right? But stop trying to compete on price. Now, what happens is that, particularly when we start talking about premium products and services, it doesn't matter if it's a Black or a blue consumer. You're going to walk in with a certain expectation for your customer experience. Okay. And so what happens is if I'm undercapitalized and I'm lower priced, what's going to happen is I'm going to be understaffed. I'm not going to have the systems in place to make that customer experience smooth. So it's going to create bottlenecks. It's going to take longer for me to get the product. The service is not going to be, when I call the phone, you're trying to answer from your cell phone because, you know, your price point is lower. So you can't afford to have the phones ring off site to where it's a seamless process. And it creates a self-perpetuating cycle of, I think I have a good product or service. Okay. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's a soap or a restaurant. And maybe I even had the capital to drop that restaurant in Buckhead. Okay. Now, that Black consumer that can afford a $70 steak has consumed $70 steaks lots of times in their lives. So they know what a $70 steak experience should feel like. They're not going to lower that expectation regardless of who owns the business.
Exactly.
And so what happens is it becomes self-perpetuating because maybe we think because we Black owned that we need to sell that steak for $55. And it doesn't work. The economics don't work. So I think that, again, what's come out of this is that if you're going to sell something that's just a consumable commodity, it doesn't matter whether we go into Publix, Walmart, Target, Albertsons, wherever, and get this brand of cheese, it's going to be the same exact product in all of those retail establishments. If you open up actively Black grocery store, the expectation that it can be exponentially more expensive and Black consumers still buy it is probably not going to be a sustainable business model, right? It's also probably not going to be a sustainable
unless you, like you said, go back to, I just want to kind of reiterate what you're saying right now. Unless you have the capital to put it in some of the, well, we got some nice Black enclaves here, right? So if you have the capital to put it there, then you can have that expectation. You can have that expectation if you do that. And that's the nuance that I'm really fighting to just be heard in this dialogue. So again, once you understand your audience versus making a blanket statement out to those who can't afford it, who are going to make those complaints, that ain't helping how we move in business as a collective. We're just having complaints that are smoothing over what it actually takes. The stuff that you're talking about is what's necessary. That's why I love to send people to you guys, because y'all are going to make sure they're thinking about all of this versus we have this collective push and back that's not supported by facts. It's not supported by facts.
Here's the brutal reality, and particularly, I'm going to talk specifically my business. So you take the same service, the value of it changes based on the environment that you're providing it in, right? So I can sell the same branding package to a Black founder, it's going to have one price point. If I'm selling that same package to the government, it's going to have a different price point.
Damn right.
If I'm selling it to a Fortune 1, Fortune 500 company, or even a mid-market company that's got 200 or 300 employees, they do 70 million a year, it has a different value. If I think that I'm going to take that and sell it to the Black founder at the same rate that I can sell it to the mid-market company, that's not a realistic expectation, right? But it's also not a realistic expectation that, I'm talking on strategy, I can't speak for anyone else's business, that I solely depend on the Black consumer to prop up my business under auspices of some social or community cause, and then I say, now pay the same thing with me that you'll be willing to pay with Deloitte. That's not, the economics on that ain't gonna work.
And that's the dialogue today. That's the dialogue. That's the point of the dialogue.
Is to strike that balance. Those government contracts, those corporate contracts provide the consistency around cash flow and what we can build capacity around. And then I can still serve my community at a different price point.
Absolutely.
But you're still gonna walk into my office through the same glass doors, get the same Fiji water. We're gonna have the pastries laid out for you. We're gonna be on time. My team is gonna operate with the utmost professionalism, and you get that. But the truth of it is, if we were trying to provide that and working with, let's just say a Black landscaper that's gotten to somewhat at scale and they're willing to take it to the next level, right? They might be able to spend $15,000 or $20,000 on marketing. They can't spend $200,000 on marketing. Exactly. And so I'd have to have 50 of them to make up for.
So what happens is we have this assumption that we have enough money to do just that. That is a part of our collective thinking about how much money we have as a community. So a part of this dialogue, Terry, is often argued because we actually think the example you just gave that you should be able to find 50 of those landscapers at 15,000. But if you made the mistake of not setting your business up as smart as you have and decided to rely on the landscaper examples like you just gave, if you decided, then we literally have people in your position that think that way and come out and be like, our community didn't support us. Like, that's how we have these dialogues.
Well, not necessarily. Because what Terry's talking about is service-based businesses. If you have a service-based business, you can do that. I just had some white ladies pay me $5,700 a month for a fractional CMO gig that my Black clients only pay me $1,250 for. They paid me $5,700 a month for 6 months. That's almost $30,000. My Black clients pay me $7,500 a month for the same service. Now, it is understanding your dynamics in your community when you have a service-based business. Now, imagine I have a publicly faced product on my website, and I say Black people only have to pay $25 for this, but everybody else has to pay $125. You can't do that.
I'm not being hurt. If you think I'm suggesting that, I'm not suggesting that.
No, what I'm saying is there are times and places for you to be able to make those adjustments. To Terry's point, he's absolutely correct. When I'm talking to corporations, I'm charging one thing. When I'm talking to my community, I'm charging another. I understand those different things, but those are behind the scene things. I'm not putting that. It's not a public thing. It's not a publicly based. It's not a T-shirt and a T-shirt. It's a service and a service. You know what I'm saying? So
Terry, let me say this. Didn't you say that if you had to rely on the landscape, I'm using your exact analogy, that if you had to try to sustain your business on that wouldn't be sustainable?
Given, let me qualify that statement.
Okay.
Given my infrastructure, my team, and the client experience that we provide.
Right. So it wouldn't be sustainable, right?
So I think the issue that we're both kind of talking around, and sometimes we're misappropriating our opinions on either side, is that, again, I said this earlier, it would be disingenuous to say that the collective consciousness of our community, is not sometimes because it's Black that it should be cheaper for me. That is a thing sometimes.
I'm not saying this. I'm acknowledging that. I'm trying to acknowledge that. If you hear me not acknowledging that, then
no. I'm not saying that you're not.
Fully acknowledging that.
I'm just bringing it. I'm bringing it back because sometimes we go on a run about something, and it may not be applicable to something else that we said, or it may be. I'm just saying that two things can be true, right? That it's impossible to provide the same experience at a lower price point and be undercapitalized. If that's an expectation that our communities have, then it's self-defeating. It's also true that if I find the capital, I take out a second mortgage on my house, I bring on investors, I sell assets, whatever I do, and I position my business to provide the same experience, the same quality product, that the expectation from our community should be that I pay the same premium for it. And what Montoya's been saying is that, well, that's a very small percentage of our community that even has the capacity to do that. right? And then so we kind of
if
get
we're
into
not honest
conversations about
about
things
it,
that
we
are just
keep
like
dogging our community about because we're not honest about who has the capacity to do it. If we're not honest about who has the capacity, we'll keep saying Black people don't support, Black people won't pay the price. But we're not being honest about who your market should be. That's the issue.
Wait. That is the okay. Everything you said, I agree with you. Every single word until you got to that very last statement. And what did you say? You said
who your
who
market should be.
That should be peace. That's the
part. That's what a learning. That's what a learning is.
That's the part that I'm like, I don't know.
But that's the learning. That's the learning. That's the learning. How is if you're offering a premium brand? What's the learning? You should go after a premium market.
Yes.
That's what created this dialogue this morning.
Are you saying that we don't have a premium Black market?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying we're not honest about how many people are in that mug.
Okay. But
and so we end up having a dialogue about the people.
But what do you mean when you say we're not honest about how many people are in that market?
So like I said, if you're offering a premium brand, the more other premium brands that if I'm a Black founder and I'm off, like say a friend of mine who understands this did just what I'm talking about. So if I'm deciding to go after the premium market, then literally I have to focus on people with a certain income. I have to focus on people with a certain amount of income. So that marketing, if I understand that's who I'm going after, then I can't spend any time berating those people who don't make that type of money about their natural complaints for wanting to support me. I have to make sure that my marketing is to them. But if I make the mistake of marketing to the premium brand and those who are not, which is sometimes we do that as well. If I make the mistake of marketing to all Black people, that's the mistake. Like that's the mistake that we're not owning if you're coming in as a premium brand. It's a mistake because the premium brands that you're saying, nobody frets a price at Polo, nobody frets a price at Polo, those companies promote and market to their target base. They don't market to people who don't have. There ain't nothing they can do about it if somebody poor decides one day to spend $200 on a shirt one time. They don't got nothing to do with that. They ain't even marketing to that person.
So you're saying,
yeah, go ahead.
So a lot of time I use the example of Mercedes. Mercedes doesn't market to us. I don't know if anybody knows that. Mercedes, BMW, they don't market to us. We have taken on Mercedes and BMW and made them our own, but they don't necessarily market to us. We have found the value in that. Most of these top brands don't market to us. Ralph Lauren, none of these brands market to us, except for they're starting to now with these collaboration types of things, but they're using us to market to us. They're still not marketing to us.
Right. Absolutely.
Okay. And so when you have a Black brand, we market, when you have a premium Black brand, we market to the Black community is what you're saying. You're saying that there's no segmentation to say, if you want to market to the premium Black folks or whatever you want to call it, that should be one thing. You shouldn't market to this other group because they can't afford it. And then it's unfair to market to everybody and then be upset or frustrated that this group of people can't market to you, right?
Can't support you. Yes.
So I'm not in disagreement with you from the Black perspective as a Black person. As a business owner, I disagree though, because the reality is this group over here, they're not marketing to us at all, and we still go and do business. But
the only people that go do it are the people that can afford it. Like, don't say that the people that can't
go back to my head and say, to your point, they don't market to us at all. We make the choice and decision to go buy it. So what you're saying is if you have a Black business who wants to have a premium product and they put it out to the Black community, not to be frustrated with the folks who want to support it, want to buy it, but can't afford to buy it. It's the same. And it's a difficult place to sit and be, because a lot of the times I'm in rooms and there's nobody else Black, right? I understand what you're saying, but you're saying the numbers aren't there. The reason why
one little piece of thing
is so that the numbers don't have to be there.
Those big companies that you say are not promoting to us, what they're actually doing is they're promoting to income. They're promoting to a lifestyle. So that, so just because that so happens not to be a lot of us or whatever, they are promoting to those who can afford it. So they're not necessarily going to put a black face. I'm just saying they're marketing to their market. So it ain't even that those
lifestyle. Yes.
Yes. And I'm just
But
saying, if you're a premium, that's the
to
type of,
us.
that's what my boy did with his company. He promoted a lifestyle and it worked successfully. And I'm just,
But
it's
to
just
your
like,
point,
go ahead.
the lifestyle is promoted. It's so to your point, they are promoting the lifestyle, but they're promoting the lifestyle using our face.
I'm not disagreeing.
And that means it's promoting to us, right? If you use our likeness, you're promoting to us. When I'm talking about marketing and promotion, I'm talking about where is the ad placement.
I understand.
You will see a BMW Mercedes ad in a Vogue and a da-da-da. You won't see it in a Black Enterprise. You won't see it in a, that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about advertising, where things are placed, right?
Yeah, I understand.
In our community, we're the flipping best, yo. We are the best people walking this damn earth.
And we support the hell out of ourselves. We support the hell out of each other.
Now, again, you say this, everything I've heard you say today is about Atlanta, Bankhead, everything is Atlanta.
I say outside of Atlanta. I ain't just lived here. I ain't just lived here.
I just lived here. Because every place is not Atlanta. Atlanta is a beautiful place. Every place deserves to have an Atlanta.
Right.
Every state deserves to have an Atlanta because it is, I don't want to say it's a monopoly, but I have not, there's a couple of, you got your Chicago's and your Detroit stuff, but there's no place like Atlanta and how they get down there, right?
So then the expectation should be different outside of Atlanta's, which I do have that. I don't have the same expectation that I have in Atlanta for where I live. Where I live is 21% Black. Like, I'm talking about where I'm originally from historically. So to have this idea that you could circulate somehow the Black dollar in an area where I'm from where people don't have no money.
And I don't circulate in that city or town, but that's the whole beautiful thing about the internet. It doesn't have to be in that town. We have a whole world. They call it the World Wide Web.
And those of us who have access, we do it. Me and you do it. Me and you do it. Yeah, me and you do it. I don't expect people where I'm from who all have broadband issues where I'm from to do what you and I do. Like we'll go dog them out where I'm from because all of us in Atlanta can do it. I make the distinction. I'm always talking about the reality. I'm only talking about the reality. We do broad brush comments about our community without considering reality. That's what my passion is about today.
So I just don't like dismal reality. I'm more of an optimist. I feel like we can't make change and we can't do good things and we can't grow and get to the next place if we don't talk about change and how to actually get there. If we only talk about what's happening right now in this small pocket, how are we going to get our pocket bigger? Like
here's the answer. Here's the answer to that question. Let's talk about what happened to the Fearless Fund. Let me read this real quick. And
the Fearless Fund got jacked.
Yeah, well, let me hear this. Well, watch this. Watch this. Watch the answer based on the founder of the Fearless Fund. I'm going to read what happened to her and look what she pivoted to. And so don't hear me because I'm talking about reality that I'm also not talking solutions. What I am challenging is the broad brush comments of how we talk about our community are not solutions. I'm saying if we stop landing on those broad brush comments that are not facts, we would actually talk about things that are solutions. I think the way we talk about ourselves actually keeps us, even you being positive as you are, in a sense. If you call something a fact that's not a fact, if you don't make the right assessment, you cannot make the right solution. Listen to what Fearless Fund did after going through what they went through. Rapid growth meets fierce opposition. This is an article. I forget exactly where the article's from. Sorry not to give the credit, but I'm going to read this just as it is. This is from the founder. Fearless Fund scaled rapidly. It attracted support from major financial institutions, deploying more than $27 million into companies like Slutty Vegan and the Lip Bar. With success came scrutiny and eventually a lawsuit that put the fund's very existence into jeopardy. In August 2023, the conservative group American Alliance for Equal Rights, led by Edward Bloom, sued Fearless Fund and its nonprofit arm. The group claimed the Strivers Grant Contest, which awarded 10,000 to 20,000 grants exclusively to Black women entrepreneurs, was racially discriminatory under Section 1981 of the Civil Rights Act of 1866, according to CBS News. A district court initially refused to block the program. Eventually, A 3-judge panel of the 11th Circuit Court later issued an injunction ordering the program suspended during litigation. For 13 months, Simone led the legal fight. She worked to guard Fearless Fund's future and the broader principle that historically excluded communities deserve bespoke solutions. She recalls relying on the tight circle of advisors and supporters while pushing ahead. She said, quote, "We were definitely dealing with the constitutional law that would affect the entire Black race," end quote, she said. In September 2024, the parties reached a settlement and the lawsuit was dismissed. As part of the agreement, Fearless Fund permanently ended the Strivers Grant contest rather than broadening the eligibility. It was a move that avoided the risk of a sweeping court decision outlawing all race-specific funding programs, according to Afrotech. The giant program ended. The dismissal freed Simone and her team to focus on what comes next and reimagine Fearless's role in the fight for equity. This was said from VC to global advocacy. The lawsuit clarified for Simone that capital alone cannot dismantle systemic exclusion and that policy, pressure, and accountability matter just as much. Even before the legal battle was fully resolved, she was already laying plans to expand Fearless work beyond investment. After closing the fund's second round, she began sketching out a larger platform. The lawsuit only made the urgency clearer. In September 2025, last year, during the United Nations General Assembly in New York, Simone launched the Fearless Global Initiative, designed as an accountability engine rather than a conference. The platform compels governments, corporations, and institutions, I'm almost done, and institutions to make keep concrete communities equity. Last paragraph, real short. Says redefining Fearless for what comes next. The transition from investor to advocate might seem like a leap, but for Simone, it's a natural evolution. The lawsuit sharpened her understanding that capital alone isn't enough to dismantle centers of systemic exclusion. Policy and accountability are just as critical. She said, "They let me in, but I don't know who else is coming in after me. I need to make it easier for the persons coming after me." She says she knows the fight is far from over, especially a backlash against diversity and inclusion grows louder. But rather than shrink from the pressure, she's learning to lean into it. And she says this country is at a huge inflection point. We need laws in place to protect the right to fund marginalized communities. That last quote from her, if I just did the dialogue with Dr. Boyce Watkins, and I say to him, you can't rely on just capital. That was my challenge to him. And she realized after going through this lawsuit that there has to be some policy backing. Inside of this back and forth, there was a point in which they could keep the fund open because one district said they could keep the fund going. And then later, people that were after them went to the 11th district and got their comment. We will look at that and say, look at what, in a sense, the white people will do to us, and not realize there was a judge injunction at one point that let her keep her business, keep that specific fund open for a while. They end up losing that at the end of the lawsuit. And I'm saying the name of the game is understanding what policy comes into play. It is not reduced down to one of our somebody coming in looking at the price and saying, oh, it's too high. No, it's understanding what market you're going after. What else do we have to do in addition to circulate our dollar? That's the dialogue where we have to get to versus I'm not just complaining. That's not what I'm doing. I'm talking about let's talk about what actually works. We must have made better assessments of what's wrong. Sometimes our assessments are just complaints that are not based on facts, and the data shows that some of the things we say about ourselves are just not true. I'm talking about the negative things that we say about ourselves are often not true. That's where I'm at. Go ahead, Queen.
So your answer is policy. Is that what you're saying?
In the situation of economics, yeah, we gotta start going after the policy game. Like we're basically about to start setting up, teaching people how think tanks work. Like that's the next level of game for where our ancestors got us to. We had a chance where we can start advancing and start thinking of it on that level. The things that we're focused on are not going to get us ahead. Go ahead, Queen.
So I don't disagree with you on policy. But the time that it takes for policy, like we need to help. We need like boots on the ground. We need help right now. Policy is important, yes, but policy. You know what policy is influenced by? Capital. Policy is influenced by people who have money. People
this is a big and
policy. So we
it's a big and. She put up $27 million and still almost got shut down.
Well,
So
she
I am speaking and I am speaking
and
and
she
not
almost
up,
got shut
not
down
either or.
because she only wanted to help Black people. They came after her because they said that
Of course.
her loans were uncivilly focused on. I can't remember the exact word, but basically, she was only giving loans to Black people,
Right.
and they said you can't do that. And so, rather than not, Arian's goal is specific to help Black people, Black women specifically, but Black people in general.
Right.
They came after her and they said, you can't do that. This is too much money. You got to do something different. So what she did was what you said, right? So if you go to her site now, it is marginalized language. She's dope.
Yeah.
It's marginalized language, and it will say something to the effect of, for men, and it's underlined, men and women from marginalized community, especially Black. Like now she's playing the word game. But what she also did was she took some of that money and did it to Africa. So now there's an African component of it. Africa said, "Bring us your money. We'll work with you." She's diversified. So she's found out how to work within the system using her money. But all that to say, she's still helping Black people. She's doing it in the way that in their rules, if you will. And to your point, realize this policy has to change, right? We can't just this doesn't work.
She had realized how much policy had effect. But I'm not saying on this video, I want to make this clear. I didn't put up policy as the answer.
But that's what I asked you.
Yeah, so let me be clear then. I'm saying and policy. I'm very aware how long policy takes.
Okay, so policy. Okay.
Yeah, this is what I kept saying to Dr. Boyce. I was like, we can't solve this without an and policy.
No, that's true. Because if not,
we think capital can solve it. I'm like, she almost got taken down because she had the policy almost took her down.
DEI did not help Black people. Like that's a whole other conversation. We're not gonna get into DEI because that's a whole other conversation.
Right.
At the end of the day, my stance is always going to be Black people can help Black people. Like if
DEI helps more than you think.
Say it again.
DEI helps way more than you think.
Folks, but like when people start talking about DEI.
So
that's one other conversation. I'm not even going to go into that one because we're already way over time. What I will say is this is my stance is we do a good job of support, or somebody said, don't say patronize. We do a good job of supporting. I look at numbers all day. I want to say this too about numbers. Everybody's right and everybody's wrong. You got to be careful with numbers. You got to be careful with stats because you always got to look to see where the stats are coming from.
I do all of that.
Who you ask and what you ask is variable. Somebody over here can say that we're having success, we're doing great. And over here, they're saying they're not having success. You got to look at where you get the results.
Absolutely.
Who asked the question?
That's absolutely what I do. And that's exactly what I do.
Yeah, everything is everybody's right and everybody's wrong.
No, everybody's not right if you do it wrong. Yeah, if you go look it up with a end in mind, then your stats are going to be wrong because you're going to look for what you're finding for. But there's an objective way.
Your stats can be wrong based on your population.
No, I'm not saying stats can't be wrong. I was just highlighting that there is a way to objectively go through stats. And if you do that, that's when the stats can be confirmed versus people who just pick up the things.
Just look at something. And I would think you're the black Socrates. So I would assume my assumption is going to be that you're going to look at various versions.
I don't do it no other way.
Everybody doesn't do that. Some people pick up something and just look at the stats and be like, oh, well, this says here. Well, yeah, but such and such marriage statistics did it. So it's probably you got to go over here and look at.
That's dishonest to our community. So I won't do that. That's dishonest. I won't be dishonest to our community.
And I would tell the truth. I didn't realize that until I got my PhD. That's how I figured. That's how I really started to understand stats. And I was like, well, wait a minute. They only asked 27 people, and they're talking about 80% of the population said, but you only asked 27 people. How you know what I'm saying? Like
population size the population size absolutely matters. But I will say what we're under. We went from 9 trillion in government contracts down to 1.4 trillion. So that's but the 9 trillion ain't but 3% of all government contracting. That's what we were getting prior to DEI. I'm intentionally taking a shot at you, like to say, hey, we lost a lot. Believe it or not. And again, it's if you understand the policy.
Government, this is where again, this is my point. This is where again, I am of, and you can call it naivety. I am of the perspective that we have our solution. I'm of the perspective that as a collective, as a community, we can solve our problems. Like I believe that we can solve
I
our problems.
agree too. We just don't include everything that it takes to solve it. Like there is a marketplace, and we're trying to sometimes solve it without participating in the marketplace. The reason she almost got taken down is because she didn't understand that policy could do that to her. So if you don't play the game based on the marketplace, you will lose out even with $27 million in capital. So again, she's been smart and got a settlement and is still in existence. But the people that came after her, they came strictly with policy, and she was just trying to solve our problems. And I'm saying sometimes it's a miss. We got to understand when a policy actually affects our community. A lot of times we let that go. And then when it comes and haunts us, then we're saying, hey, kids, y'all shouldn't go to the ACC and SEC schools. Like we come up with these boycotts that are senseless because we're actually not considering the marketplace and what it takes for us to solve our stuff ourselves. We're trying to do it ourselves and disregarding part of the marketplace. That's what I'm passionate about. Like we got to see these other things coming. And I'm not saying I have all the answers, but often we are so focused on ourselves that that's why I have an argument. Dr. Boyce, I love him, but he ain't into the end. Like everybody that got capital,
to your point,
the people that's controlling us, they do both. It's a
blessing and a curse. And I actually have this conversation more times than not. One of the things about our community that is a blessing and a curse is that you have so many perspectives and opinions. And because there's so many perspectives and opinions, no one knows which way to go, who's on first, what to do, how to do, because everybody has a perspective, everybody has an opinion, everybody believes that there's just the right way of the path. And so our people are like this all the time. We don't know who's on first. And I think what I love about mental dialogue is that you have a space to have these various opinions. What I love about the comments is somebody be like, that person is right, I get it. And somebody else be like, no, that don't make sense. How do we solve our problems if we can't ever just really figure out?
We gotta have these dialogues. That's why we do it. We do it to talk about what actually worked versus what doesn't. And so, like I said, I'm just saying policy and capital and policy. Thank you, Queen. Great conversation.
Love it.
I appreciate you for the extra time.
Absolutely. You have a great day. Thank you so much for having me. I love having these conversations with you.
I appreciate you for doing it, being willing to do it with me, because I know my passion. I started running. All right, y'all. For everybody else that's watching, I'm gonna share my Buying Black manifesto just in case y'all thought, like Lanee said, that thought I wasn't for us or against us. So I'm gonna read this to let y'all know how much I am for us. But before you go, Lanee, let them know how they can follow you for anything you're doing or get in contact with anything you got upcoming.
Oh, you can follow me on all social medias at I am. You have the thing up at I am Dr.
I can type it in, put it up right now. Give me a second. Let me put a banner up. I am. Hold on, I'm gonna type it right quick. Let me type.
It's in my name. If you put that thing down, see it. I already
type it real quick. Oh, it's already. Oh yeah, let me take that down. Okay, just take it down. Okay, got you. Let me take that down. The comment down. Got you. All right, let me take that comment down and the show up. It's my bad.
No, you're good.
And I gotta find it because there's a bunch of comments in the.
I know how you are with technology.
Yeah, I know, right? So,
you're good. You're good.
I probably should have just typed it in. That'd
let me
been better.
say this. First of all, I already know that Montoya is for the community. I know how you rock and how you roll. We're literally just having one of our conversations that we have behind closed doors between the two of us. We just had it online with y'all. Like this is how we be going back and forth. Montoya puts me up on so much game and challenges me to think about things so differently. A lot of times I get off the phone and I'm like, I wonder, let me think about what he said. So this is literally us just having our own banter, like in front of y'all, like when we be having conversations.
Absolutely. Yeah, I got so many comments I can't even find it to take it down. All right, y'all. If y'all want to bear with me, anybody that's watching, I'm going to read my Buying Black manifesto to you guys again, because I am very much about us supporting our own. In Atlanta, it's easy for me to do it. I do it in Atlanta all the time, but I also understand where I live at. It's not as simple. I'm always talking about the reality. Anyway, it says, how do you become a revolutionary capitalist? We are typically overly critical of our Black-owned businesses because in many instances, they are competing against companies that have been in business 50 to 100 years longer. Most of our Black-owned businesses are one-person shops wearing every hat, including sales, marketing, accounting, customer service, etc. Not to mention, most Black startups often lack capital or, more importantly, access to capital as they attempt to compete within their industry. Number one, Stop all Black spending power myths. African Americans are not the biggest consumers in the country. According to the C League Center for Economic Growth, Blacks spend 1.3 trillion, Hispanics 1.5 trillion, Asians 1 trillion, and whites 10.6 trillion. I wrote this back in 2018 to give people context. So those are the numbers from 2018, just to give people context. If Blacks left America, approximately 3 trillion in household wealth would leave America. However, that is only 2% of total household wealth in America. 105 trillion at the time. It's like 120 trillion now, which highlights the needs for reparations. Even if you disagree with reparations, staying on code would preclude not speaking out against them. African Americans do support one another in business. Example number 1, Sam Tisdale successfully became the first Black-owned beauty supply store in Nashville, Tennessee, and grossed $50,000 in 3 hours on opening day. Example number 2, Dr. Key Hallman founded the Village Market ATL, a quarterly marketplace of 80-plus Black-owned businesses fully supported by Black consumers. The Black August campaign spent $1.8 million with Black-owned businesses. Number 2, stop asking for the hookup. According to business consultant Terry Simmons, the average markup in American business is only 38%. Therefore, consistent discounts to family and friends can severely hamper a startup Black-owned business's sustainability, especially when the average Black-owned business grosses $58,000 a year and takes 3 years on average to turn a profit, according to bizinfluence.com. Number 3, increase Black-owned business spending to a minimum of 5 to 10%. There are currently 2 million Black-owned businesses, but only 5% employ others. A 10% increase in Black spending would add more jobs within the Black community. Next, seek out Black online marketplaces, such as ERGJ Black Bazaar or We Buy Black, to find not only unique Black-owned brands, but to find and replace daily use items. Next, understand Black businesses often cannot compete on price alone. So Black consumers' willingness to pay more for Black-owned products or services is sometimes a necessity. Please support if the price is within 25% of what you usually pay. Vice versa, Black owners, please conduct market price analysis to determine if the product or service will focus on the luxury, middle, or low-cost markets, then attempt to be within 25% of those market prices. Trying to sell to all 3 markets without proper price analysis and or marketing will usually lead to unwarranted disappointment in Black consumers. 4, realistic expectations. Do not enter Black-owned businesses expecting a bad experience or feeling like you are doing them a favor. If you have a bad experience, attempt to provide feedback in a manner that helps the business owner improve. Black business owners are often caught wearing too many hats within the business despite their best effort, and your feedback might be what they need to improve. If feedback is not well received, discontinue business without grouping other Black business experiences into one. Fully respect the policy of Black business owners in the same manner you respect other races or ethnic group policies. Many Black owners go out of their way to accommodate their Black consumers, only to find the accommodations at a cost/time, only to earn very little to no profit. Last thing, 5, respect hiding while Black owned. Buy Black, sell to everyone. Unless marketing that you are Black owned creates a competitive advantage, consider breaking into markets without revealing your race initially, or strategically diversify your workforce and or ownership when profitable for long-term success. That's my Buying Black manifesto. Thank you, Queen, for sticking out. Any thoughts on it? Then we get out of here.
No, I thought it was good. I thought it was decent. Not decent. I thought it was good. I agree with a lot of the comments that you made.
All right, y'all. So if you're interested in what you heard, Re-Education of the Negro is where you can get that manifesto. Thank you, Queen, for the extra time. We are out of here for real this time.
All right.
All right. I'm going to end with a commercial for our live experience next Friday. If you're in Atlanta, you have an opportunity to come out to our actual live where we're doing conversations on money, sexual abuse. We got therapists in the house. It's going to be dope. What are we really afraid of? Not money, not abuse, not the truth. Join the Mental Dialogue live experience, The Fear Factor, an unforgettable evening featuring Powerful conversations on financial fears, domestic violence, and child sexual abuse with licensed therapist Shanae Benito, plus wine tasting, networking, and real dialogue. Friday, July the 17th, 7 p.m. at Urban Grind in Atlanta, because healing begins where silence ends. All details at mentaldialogue.com.